Hello, Americans, especially young Americans, those who will be around after I'm gone. The world belongs to you, and it's my responsibility to provide you with a good world to inherit. You were celebrating Easter last week, and you have heard the story about conquering the death. It's an old and brilliant story, but after many repetitions, it started fading away, and many of you probably think it's just a boring and obsolete story, something useless. However, stories are important, and today I want to tell you a story. Even ancient Greeks understood why stories were important, and God knows how many generations before them people realized their utility. For generation after generation, people all around the world were telling and retelling the stories, improving sentences and struggling to get the best words and best meaning of those words in order to extract the substance of the purest human psychology and the purest form of truths that can be used by all the people to navigate through life. This is why those stories are eternal. Sometimes there would be a tribe living somewhere with a story, they would be assimilated or conquered by another tribe, but the story would remain because it was so important. Stories work in a similar fashion as natural selection works in biology, and Sir Richard Dawkins knows that. He developed the concept of memes, where memes or some ideas are infecting people. They are spreading like viruses. So they want to have hosts to reproduce, to thrive. And of course, they're going to mutate with every telling and retelling until they become in their perfect form, perfectly adapt to the environment. So why were stories used? Well, stories were used to shape human nature and to cause predictive behavior. When Greeks used the word tragedy, that doesn't mean what we think under the word tragedy. It means that under certain circumstances, heroes will rise and reenact ancient stories. Many times it will require their sacrifices, but the society will be preserved. The core values of that society will be preserved. Core stories and the essence of what built us will remain intact. So it's worth it. This is why Leonidas decided to guard that Thermopylae pass against Persians, and that act made him immortal. His story kept living on. So Alexander the Great, several centuries later, will be courageous enough to lead the charge directly into the Darius army and to rout it, basically. It will pass more than millennia until Serbian medieval hero Miloš Obilić will do the same, charging into the heart of invading Ottoman Empire and killing their sultan, their king. Can you imagine that? And there will be half a millennia more until Mihailo Page, or as you know him, Major Page, or if you were kids during the 90s, it's your Joe figure, will take the stand on a ridge during the Battle of Guadalcanal with not 300 brave Spartans, but with 33 Marines, equally brave as those Spartans, to guard the passage to American rear. So, what made them do that? What made those people sacrifice their lives in order to preserve America? And keep in mind, Mikhailo was born in America, so it was just one generation away from immigrant. What made him? What stories? Well, he knew two stories. He knew stories about Miloš Obilić and about Alexander, and he knew stories of your founding fathers. So what made them do that? Why they were not afraid? Why they didn't retreat when they faced a whole regiment of Japanese soldiers? It was 100 versus 1. It was thousands versus dozens. Well, how could they be afraid? Because they were not alone in that trench. There was Miloš with them, and there was Leonidas and Alexander the Great. They were part of the same myth, of the same story. That kept them safe. and that kept them calm to do the duty. That night, he and his brave men earned the Medal of Honor. Unfortunately, only Mikhailo survived, resisting whole night before leading bayonet charge to 1,000 or 2,000 Japanese. I don't know how many remained after that night. And there was God with them. Maybe you don't trust me, but listen to Mikhailo, he told it. And they knew that that was not the end. Even if they die, they will be incorporated into something greater than them. They will be incorporated into history of America, into history of free world, and they will again reinforce that story that gave them courage, because that story was much more precious than their lives. So today I want to tell you a different story about resurrection. This story will be uplifting and motivating, because I want you not only to improve this world, but I want you to create completely new worlds. I want you to live meaningful and fulfilled life, and I want you to overcome death, because the man from this story has been dead for the last 70 years before people started seeing him in the streets again. First they were turning heads in disbelief, but now he's a common sight. It's literally everywhere. Maybe you think that I just lost my mind, but believe me, I'm from different ethnical and sociological background, so cultural background, so I can clearly see something that you cannot see. You know, this t-shirt that I chosen is pitch black, but my camera has a very weird blue filter, so it looks purple, but it's black, so believe me, we can see the things from a different perspective. My story doesn't start in Middle East, it starts in Southern East Europe, where a boy was born. Besides some humble pastures and rocks, there's pretty much nothing there. And yet, that boy will be the one who will save the humanity, besides having such a humble beginnings. As his mind was brilliant, even while he was a child, he started constructing the machines, trying to tame the power of water and turn it into something different, into a different form of energy, so the suffering of humanity can be minimized, and thus true potential of humanity could be revealed once pointless labor and pointless suffering is deleted from the equation. However, in order to fulfill his mission and become the father of a completely new branch of science and engineering, he needed to abandon his homeland, just as Abraham was called and needed to go many millennia ago from his home. He needed to make a decision to leave behind the way of life that was expecting him, but he chose adventure instead. The difficult step was necessary, because he was planted in unfertile soil. He couldn't thrive there. There were no advanced schools there, there were no industry, there was no university, there were no factories, there was pretty much nothing. If he had decided to choose security and predictability over the adventure, he would become a shepherd, maybe a local teacher, maybe a priest like his father, or craftsman. But that would not unleash his full potential. That would be just a local good, not the highest form of good. So he knew what he needs to do. In order to become one of the greatest, he needed to move. Fortunately, he was not a plant. Of course, he was a human being. He was a man who had free will. Free will and knowledge means that he will suffer a lot. Because with free will, he will be the master of his own destiny. Every step he takes will be his decision. All he has is a guidance from all stories. Anyone who has ever pursued the knowledge knows how hard it is. All the people who contributed with their knowledge had countless sleepless nights, You know, when you wake up and then you're sweat and then you're thinking, why is this not working? Why am I so dumb? They were struggling internally. They were asking themselves, is it worth it? Why am I doing this? But yet, they were devoted and they stayed on that difficult path because they had some form of faith. They knew that what they were doing was bigger than them. So from his remote village, he went to study to the most prestigious universities of Europe to read basically everything that could be read. And back then, before the computers, it was not an easy task. Imagine taking a little lamp or a little candle, going to the library, digging, trying for hours and days. He was looking for scientific predictions or prophecies, if you want to call it like this, written long before him by the people who were his fathers, like Newton or Ben Franklin or Roger Bošković. He was communicating with them, having a relationship with them, trying to become one of them, to enter their minds and to fulfill their dreams and mission. So by actively pursuing wisdom, more wisdom was given to him, and the ideas started to open the shell of ignorance. Soon, he started producing miracles, something unseen, engineering miracles. He started opening the eyes of people. They were blind. All that time, all the solutions or building blocks for that solution were in front of their eyes, but they were blind. And now they see those ideas that make something so elegant, so simple, and so useful. And once he was fed with knowledge, he was gifting the world with more knowledge. He was sharing it. He just multiplied. And that gave the strength to other engineers, his colleagues, to produce even more miracles. They're producing miracles even today. And he was able to do this because he got the power of Logos. Logos is something like wisdom and knowledge combined. And once you have the true Logos, you are able to have articulate speech. And once you are able to have articulate speech, you're able to define things. And once you define them, they become real because they got function. And everybody knows what it is. So everything becomes real around him. He was started making new worlds. And once he became a master of Logos, he was able to ask good questions, to ask for something, to ask for more, for investments or opportunities, for God knows for what. And he understood that now even Europe is too small for him. He wanted to go to America. And before the journey, he was given a recommendation letter to Thomas Edison, the greatest inventor of that time. So now young fellow, not boy anymore, came to Mr. Edison's office and handed him sealed letter, and Edison opened and said, "Well, Mr. Edison, in my life I met two brilliant men. One of them are you, and the second one is the young fellow standing right in front of you." Whew, big words. So Edison decided to hire him. "Okay, you're hired. Now show me your miracles." And he started showing the miracles. He started to show him miracles indeed. But instead of being accepted, he was not accepted because his brilliant ideas, although good, were interfering with some economic reasons behind Edison plans. And just in that story, when Jesus saved two men from demons but destroyed meat industry of a little town, he was casted away. This is where the story of Cain and Abel begins. Because Edison was brilliant, just as this young boy. He was sacrificing a lot. However, gods of physics were not pleased with his sacrifice. They were more pleased with these little fellows' sacrifices. So Edison decided to kill him, and this story is old. This predates New Testament. This is as old as humankind, because Cain and Abel were basically the first two real humans. So it's something in human nature to destroy the ideal. Edison wanted to be him, but he knew that he was not able to. And instead of accepting it and take the best from him, he decided to destroy him. Maybe literally, maybe just, metaphorically. But he was a sore loser. So he started parading grotesque parades with electrocution of animals, and he patented electric chairs, in order to show that little fellow was wrong. However, despite all the struggles, Tesla, well, now you know it's Tesla, obviously. Tesla actually won this battle of currents and started collaborating with Westinghouse. And now, at this point, Satan enters the story, because there is no good story without Satan. So, Tesla, he had all the patents for electric motors. So, nice percentage of earnings for every motor that will be ever sold will go to him. If he accepts, he instantaneously becomes the wealthiest man alive. So what did he choose? Well, Tesla of course rejected and elegantly turned up the contract, because he didn't want to jeopardize his idea. He wanted to become a legend. He was not collecting for this world. He didn't care about material. He wanted to make something else. He was on the mission to liberate the humanity of pointless, unnecessary suffering. And Tesla's vision triumphed. He had everything. He had a generator, transformator, motors, everything. He was the one who made the greatest light show ever seen until that moment on Earth during Chicago World Expo. Can you imagine that? Completely new world. Imagine that you have never seen a single light bulb and then there is everything bright. Million stars. And because you know the story of Christ, you must understand that something magnificent is needed to be punished by sinful and envious crowds. See, Tesla never got Nobel Prize, although he first observed X-rays. Nobel Prize was given to Röntgen. And he was also not awarded Nobel Prize for the discovery of remote control and radio. Instead, it was given to the plagiarist named Marconi. Not even in his home country of Yugoslavia/Serbia, he was respected. He was not good enough for our glorious Academy of Science. He never became a member. Can you believe it? Greatest engineer in the world. And during the 90s, when madness of civil war swept over his home village, some morons decided to blow his monument up with dynamite. Strange. And yet, he was forgotten for many years. He lived in hotels. He started speaking with pigeons. He was maybe mad, maybe just disappointed, or still brilliant. It's on you to decide. He died alone and he had no kids. Unless you count all the engineers who ever lived after him as his kids. And it passed some half a century or more till he reappeared. He reappeared in the streets in the form of a sleek and sexy sports car. Because he inspired Elon Musk, another brilliant man, and one more brilliant man called Mate Rimac, that you call Rimac, who originates from similar geographic area, just a little bit to the south. Both of them made miracles. One of them is going to reach to the stars, and another one made a company that is worth $1 billion, and he has the fastest sports car. So, why am I telling you this? Well, I want you to achieve something extraordinary. I want you to have fulfilled life, and I want you to be greater than life and greater than death. I want you to be committed to something and to understand the sacrifice as a term. I want you to sacrifice some present pleasures for today in order to build something fantastic for the future. Because you see, if you don't foster these stories, these old stories that are old for millennia, some other stories are going to invade you. And believe me, if you look into the biography of every successful man ever who achieved something greater than life, you will understand that there were many crossroads in their lives, and the story was guiding them every time on every turn. For this story, I made probably 20 references to the Bible, and this is what Tesla was doing. He knew what to do every time. He was born with horrible starting position, just as many millions and billions of people. But he was not whining about that. He knew that that is the opportunity. He knew that some people are not placed in fertile soil. But if that is the situation, well, what can they do? They should hit the road, take the adventure, and pursue their happiness. This is what your founding fathers understood. Pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So you have life, no matter how poor it is. But it's a life, it's better than that, you understand? And because now you have life, you have free will. So you are free. And once you are free, well, what is stopping you? Nothing is stopping you. You can go wherever you want, you can do whatever you want, you can learn whatever you want. You can make so many varieties of yourself, and some of them will be brilliant. Unfortunately, some of them lead to hell. If you let other stories infect you, like the story of Marxism, you are not going to end up where you are now. You are not going to create America. You are going to create Soviet Russia. You are not going to create Holodomor in Ukraine, and Great Famine of Kazakhstan, and Great Famine of China. And you are going to create that fraud Lysenko. Maybe you are going to become him. You're also going to make a teen massacre, and you are going to make NDH, and you're going to make killing fields of Cambodia and prisons of Cuba. And those new horror stories from Venezuela. This is what you are going to make. Because stories are powerful. And if logically coherent, they are true. Those are the prophecies that are going to turn into reality if enough people are infected. Just as that Miloš was nothing but old Alexander the Great, and this Mihailo Pajic was Miloš, or Alexander the Great, or Leonidas. People are going to do what stories are guiding them. So what else happened in Tesla's life? He was seeking for adventure. He wanted logos. He didn't want to score credits. He didn't want to have easy pass through studies. He wanted to struggle. He wanted to be challenged. Because only when challenged, he will become a master of logos. And once he became a master of logos, this is when all the doors started to open to him. And he kept struggling. And even when rejected, he kept struggling because he believed in the highest form of good. This is what I want from you. Because this is the world that you have inherited. Highest form of good. Maybe some of you little fools, maybe you think that you are smarter than all the people before you. Although you know that you are not even the smartest kid in the classroom. So not that you are not in 0.000%, not that you are the smartest man in the century or smartest man in millennium. You're not the smartest kid in your desk. It's half-half. So don't be fools. You are not smart enough to invent those stories. And if you want to listen to a good debate, go listen to Jordan Peterson versus Sam Harris, that little pseudo-intellectual fraud. Jordan was running circles around him because he knew that ancient stories have wisdom. So you decide. You decide whose servant you're going to be, what set of stories and core values you're going to embrace. Time is passing every day. You're not getting younger. Don't waste your time on following ideas, on something that is dead, that was proven to be dead. Choose life. It's good.